Good day, everybody. This is Flashlight Hangouts number 2. And today I'm with Josh. Josh is a 1lumen reviewer. Hey, Josh, how are you doing?
Hey, Marco, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. So, Josh, before we start diving into the very interesting topics, could you please introduce yourself? Say where you're from, what you do, why you're into flashlights, and we can go from there.
Of course. Yeah. Hey, guys. I am Josh, like he said. And I currently, well, we recently moved to Quitman, Arkansas. And this was after a good 95% of my life in Oregon. And we were just ready for a change. So came out here. And as far as if we're getting down to business, as far as the flashlights go, I spent quite a few years in the military, and it's one of those things that you kind of develop a sense of over preparedness.
Mm,
And I found that it's one of those things that when you need something and you don't have it, it's way more crucial than when you have it and don't need it.
uh-huh.
So I joke that I think I even put in my profile on your site that I have a penchant for all things sharp and bright, and I think that holds very true. I have My wife would attest to the fact that I have way more flashlights than I could ever
You
need,
need.
could ever use,
Or use.
as well as knives.
Uh-huh.
But I just kind of developed that sense of always wanting to make sure that I had what I needed. And you never know when you're going to be out, when you're going to be doing this or that or the other thing. And it just comes down to wanting to make sure that what I'm doing, I can always do to the fullest of my abilities. And that required making sure that I can see. So,
Yeah.
uh,
You
sorry,
have
go ahead.
something in your hand right now. What is that?
Yeah, right now I have a brass Olight i5T,
Uh-huh.
and this is kind of like my, well, not this specifically, but this size is kind of my go-to as far as a light that I typically use. It's either this or a headlight because in addition to using um, my hands in pretty much everything we do, I like to make sure that my hands are free and
Oh yeah.
it uh, maybe not a brass because it's a little heavier, but if I have to
Or how about here?
do a lip bite or yeah, throw it on the top of the cap. I usually don't. One other thing we do is we work on a lot of vehicles.
Hmm.
So in that sense, a headlamp is fantastic,
Oh yeah.
or something like those small the small work lights.
Yeah.
Those are other types that I use very frequently to make sure that I have my hands ready and available.
Yeah. So what do you like about that particular flashlight, the Olight i5T or i5R?
Yeah, so this one's an i5T,
Oh.
and to be honest, I picked this one up. It was definitely the right price. I think I got it for about $25,
Hmm.
American, and it's one of those things that I like experimenting and playing around with things. So this particular one is actually going to get a treatment on the brass finish to try to darken it and make it appear more like a vintage brass.
Uh-huh. So I personally liked it. This, I think it's two modes, correct? That one.
This one is, yeah. So it'll do
Yeah,
the
very easy. I love it actually because like I have three of the bigger version, like the two double A's, the i5, that one. Yeah, the so my kids love it, and it's very easy to use. Well, I have three around the house, and
hmm
they just okay. One click is like low, two clicks, it's bright. It's 500 lumens, which is totally enough around the house.
right.
Instead of like click, 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 click. What's
Yeah.
this? Oh, that was
Yeah, that's one of the things that's one of the things that I definitely think is kind of crucial and helpful when you just need a go-to light, or
yeah.
and usually pocket lights fit that is you're able to get that. Okay, I know that if I press it once, it's going to be low, and if I press it again, it's going to be brighter.
Yeah.
And there's just a level of dependability with it. So
Yeah, yeah. I think I told Darren last time as well. Like I even have a one mode flashlight, And people, it's like a Mac light from like 20 years ago. The same idea. It
Right.
just it can be so helpful just having one in your pocket whenever wherever you are, wherever you go, just to have reliability. If you hit that switch, there is 1,000 lumens. You just know it's there. That can be
Right.
very helpful in my opinion. So yeah, I've been appreciating different kinds of UIs in different use cases, and but I also like the advanced what do you call them, UIs like Nightcore has or OLED has, where you have like a dual menu, so to say. You have the easy one and a tactical one. That's
Right.
interesting as well. Depends on the flashlight and the situation. In my how what do you think?
No, I 100% agree with you. One of my favorite lights of all time is probably the Workhorse TS10.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, I think they're a little out of sight from the camera right now,
Uh,
but I probably have, I would say, 10 to 12 of them.
really?
Um, yeah, yeah. I wasn't kidding when I said I have
That's
more than I
crazy.
definitely need. Well, I do. I know we were talking a little bit earlier about I don't feel like I need all of a certain colorway in any light or anything like that, but I do have every TS10 variety that has come out so far. Um, and I definitely think there's a fascination with what you can do just with simple ones and zeros going through a chip that controls LEDs and so on and so forth. But at the same time, getting back to your original question, just the dependability of knowing that when you press a button, it's going to turn on, and
Mm,
that instead of okay, we're going to send the current down to a chip that's going to read, and then it's going to try to communicate with
yeah.
some sensors and find out how warm it is already to know if it can ramp up. Like it's awesome,
Hmm.
but at the same time, it doesn't always need to be that complicated.
No, I mean, everything has its benefits and downsides, so to say.
Yeah.
With every UI, with every flashlight, with every review, even. So last time we were talking about with Darren, I was talking about um, grading flashlights, and you and I went up and down a little, back and forth a little bit about grading. It's very difficult for a reviewer that to be as unbiased as as possible, but still keep in mind the use case. So I was kind of wondering about you, like, what have you found difficult in reviewing flashlight, or what is eye-opening, and what was exciting, what was new to you when reviewing flashlights instead of just using flashlights?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. I think the biggest thing is you mentioned eye opening, and I think that kind of hits the nail on the head, but kind of from the side instead of directly on. Um, for me, something difficult has been I don't have every flashlight out there. I can almost guarantee you have more flashlights than I do. I've seen some photos of people, some people's collections online, and
Mm,
they have it looks like a store's worth of flashlights in their living room or something. And I, having not used every flashlight, sometimes a very special use or something that doesn't fit in line with something I have a lot of experience with, it it can be difficult to remain unbiased. Um,
yeah.
and and as much as you can, if you don't have a lot of experience in an area, it's sometimes difficult to say, you know what, I like this.
Mm,
Comparatively to stuff I haven't used, it seems like it could be better or worse.
yeah.
But only drawing from experiences that you have can kind of limit and even I don't want to say disregard, but not bring into their full effect some of the positives or some of the attributes that a flashlight does have.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, for example, in the past few years, I started to appreciate different kinds of UIs. Have you thought about it as well? Like, because you had to, not had to, but because you wanted to, because you had to review a flashlight that wasn't the one you normally would buy, for example, but could be interesting. Did you start appreciate different kinds of aspects of flashlights as well, like different LEDs, different like TIR optics, UIs, batteries, whatever? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
so I'll be honest. I did not know what TIR optics were. Like I knew they existed, but the workings of it, how with one single lens or molded piece of plastic you can get, a narrow and a throw beam, or a narrow and a wide beam rather. I There's a lot of engineering and a lot of design that can go into these flashlights, and I'll be the first to admit that when I need a flashlight, typically I will reach for something like my X75.
Ooh.
I'll reach for something like that just because that will give an absolute wall of light.
Hmm.
And I definitely have my preferences. Um, so experiencing something that kind of goes against the grain on what I would typically grab,
Hmm.
that's kind of where you get the okay, I got to keep in mind that this isn't exactly what I would go for. Um, and this is like a specific example, talking about that PK25.
Mm.
I'm not particularly keen on throwers. I know they have a use case. I know they have a very specific purpose, and sometimes it can be difficult to resonate with someone who has an already standing preference in a type of a type of light. Um,
Yeah.
so getting into the different UIs, like you're saying, getting into the different. Um, I was going to say materials, but I don't know. I don't know if that's really going to make as much of a difference in the usability of something. But getting into something that just is kind of off from what you typically get, it you definitely have to try a little harder to, I guess, experience all of it and kind of coming from that bird's eye view on what benefits something has, whether or not it is your preference.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree with that. I totally agree. So, what kind of flashlights do you think, or actually you learned to dislike? What kind of flashlight do you like? Just you don't. If I offer you like, you can review this flashlight, and what kind of flashlight would you just say? No, I just don't like um, this type of flashlight.
Is this including specific manufacturers or?
Oh yeah, manufacturers, types, size, whatever. Do you have any like, what do you call them? Like dislikes?
Well, okay, so yes and no. I know there are going to be rules or exceptions to the rule rather. But in my experience so far, Zoomy lights, all
The
of
what?
my some of the zoomable
Oh,
flashlights.
Zoomy. Sorry, yeah, I was dummy. I
Yeah.
Zoomy lights. Yeah, yeah, okay.
So I know that a lot of those zoomable flashlights can be lacking on quality control, and you'll get, for instance, a 35, 36, $37 flashlight that has a claimed 900,000 lumens. And I almost, part of me just doesn't want to feed into what they're doing, or like if there's a, I don't know, it's almost giving publicity to something that doesn't necessarily warrant it, so to speak.
Good one. I totally forgot about those kind of flashlights. Yeah, they're
They make great wheel chocks.
okay. Well, and I think maybe this is also like a little lesson for people who are watching, maybe, and maybe new to Zoomy flashlights. First of all, what you said, more often than not, they claim a much higher output than they really are. Number two, when it's like you can zoom in and zoom out. I'm not really sure when you call it zoom in and zoom out. For me, zoom in is like when you actually have very tiny spot.
Right,
That's
like
for
an
me zoom
LED
in.
style or a narrow beam.
Yeah, like a camera lens, where you zoom in, then you zoom into like a very small. Anyway, it's interesting to know that zoomy lights, they produce many more lumens when it's like the like wide beam than the narrow beam, because there's so much light lost in the flashlight that bouncing up and down that just doesn't get through the lens, so to say. So even when you buy like 1,000 lumen zoomy flashlight, when you actually want to zoom it in, there are no 1,000 lumens anymore. Maybe that's also interesting for people maybe who are watching this and don't have much experience. So just with testing, because if you don't test, you don't know. And then by testing, oh, actually, when you zoom this in, it's only like, it usually loses between 30 and 50% of lumen output if you zoom it in. But yeah, if you don't test it, you don't know. So you think I still have 1,000 lumens, like hitting a tree or a building far away, but it's not 1,000 lumens. It's most of them, maybe 30% is gone. That's
Right. Well, I think comparing to kind of like an LEP is probably a good like lateral for that, in the sense that those don't require much output, but it's so focused. Instead of a widespread, you have such a narrow focus that you get the distance, and you really can go blind from one of these things, in the wrong circumstances. And yes, it will appear very bright. That's because everything's so focused. But yeah, I agree that there is a lot of light that is lost, a lot of output that's lost as soon as you try to focus, especially something of more cost effective, mass produced quantities.
Yeah, when you talk about LEP flashlights, maybe people who are watching this, they know what LEP flashlights are. Basically, they are flashlights that look like LED flashlights, but they have like a laser module within them. So, do you have one nearby?
I do, yeah.
Mine are all stacked away.
I will have to open it up though, but I have the Lumentop Thor 3.
Thor 3, yeah, that's a really good one.
So actually, I got this when you had, I don't remember if it was Christmas or Black Friday, but you had a coupon code, and it got this down to about $100 US, and I had to.
Yeah, so that one is maybe, I forgot from the top of my head, maybe like 500 lumens or something, 400 lumens, but it can reach 1.5 miles, I guess.
Yeah, oh, it has amazing,
Or
amazing thrill for something that is such a low output. I mean, it doesn't get much more than this brass i5T that I had, but it throws by a factor of 10
yeah,
farther.
easily.
Yeah, so 400 lumens and 2,500 meters.
2,500 meters, yeah. That's amazing. Like that's kind of like the new technology that it's coming up, I guess. LSD, I forgot, DSL, LSD, whatever. The laser, the flashlight with lasers built into them. Maybe they produce less lumens, but they can throw farther, and that kind of stuff. So yeah. Anyway, so if so, you have the Thor 3. Is that something you use or just like to have?
I like to use it. Yeah, we have quite a bit of property.
Oh yeah.
The unfortunate thing about that is, about an LEP specifically, is you have to get out quite a ways before it actually starts spreading into usable light. So, I mean, I think for something like a search and rescue, it definitely has a purpose if you need that distance, if you need to be able to see things that you would see, I guess, a normal focal length, but you want to see that, 1,000 yards down or 1,000 meters down. They do have their purpose, but normally it's in the hands of my children and they pretend it's a lightsaber.
Okay, cool. Yeah, actually, it's an interesting point that you made. I actually got an email from people in the eastern part of Europe, so to say. They are in trouble right now, Ukraine, And they were also looking for flashlights that can reach very far. So they asked for help, and I pointed them to LAP flashlights. That's like, if you look at some of the LEP, not all, actually many don't, but if you look at the Mac stock LEP flashlights, that's what I can remember from top of my head, they can sustain such a high output and such a long distance for like hours.
Yeah.
Instead of like an LED flashlight that usually drops down within a few minutes and then stays down. Even it can reach maybe like a mile or 1.5 miles, but after 3 minutes, it's down to whatever, like a half mile or something. So yeah, they were interested in long distance, long sustained flashlights, and I think LEPs are the right choice instead of like what you said, the X75 that you just had over there.
Right. Yeah.
It's using 4 batteries or 3 batteries. Heavy, it's big, it's expensive. Of course, LED flashes are also expensive. But on one battery, like the Thor 3, I'm not sure how many hours you can run on high mode, but it's only one battery. If you have like 5 batteries with you, the whole night you can use it, so to say.
Let me tell you specifically. It is 4 hours off of one 18650.
Oh, 18650. I thought 21700.
Well, it has the battery tube, so I happen to be looking at the 18650 column. It has the adapter sleeve for it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, imagine like you can run it for hours and hours without have to recharge it, just taking a spare battery with you.
Right.
That's another thing that are really great about LEP flashlights. If you can reach far, like, oh, I have this big bad boy over there, like the Astrolux. It's like this large, has eight batteries.
I mean, it's the MF something or
MF05. It's huge, but the problem is it's just 8 batteries. Take some spare batteries with you. It's like a small one you can put in your pocket and runs for 4 hours, like you said. That's just amazing, this technology.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you bring up the 8 batteries, and that was a question I had for you, because I know we had talked back and forth a little bit about these dual fuel or the multi-cell or multi-chemistry flashlights, and I was curious if there is a specific type of battery or specific charging system something that you try to stay away from. I know I'm speaking to Mr. Eneloop 101 right now, so.
Well, the best batteries are Eneloops.
Yeah, I mean.
No, yeah, so it's tough. I have been testing X-Star 1.5 volt lithium ion batteries. So these are actually 3.7, 3.6 volt batteries, but they have like a electronics, so they become 1.5 volts. Okay. Personally, I don't like them.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. So they are lithium ion batteries, but they have like some mechanical or electronics. So the output is 1.5 volts, stable. Like from the beginning till the end is 1.5 volts. An alkaline battery goes like this. Eneloop battery goes like this. But the X-Star just stays like this, 1.5 volts the whole time.
Until the very end, right?
Till the very end, and then drops.
Right.
I love them. I mean, so there are a few things. The technology is still in progress. It's interesting, but right now I wouldn't recommend them for flashlights because they are still a little bit unstable. For some flashlights they work, for some flashlights they don't. So I tested them maybe with 10 different flashlights, and I cannot remember. At least half of them didn't work well with these batteries. So I wouldn't use those batteries for flashlights right now. I'm pretty sure XR will improve those batteries, and then they can sustain a high enough energy, like the amp draw. But right now, I wouldn't focus on those type of batteries. So I also got another question about lithium-ion batteries. They were afraid of exploding. I've been in that camp as well. More than 10 years ago, I was afraid of lithium-ion batteries because I was afraid they will explode. but these days I just use them in almost any kind of flashlight. So I'm not really sure if that was answering your question. Your question was more about what batteries and charging
Yeah.
system you stay away from.
Right, right. Well, okay. So specifically, I know that there are flashlights that don't have any onboard USB charging or anything like that. I know some people like to dog on Olight's proprietary magnetic charging.
Oh,
Although, say what you want about it, it is incredibly convenient.
yeah,
Incredibly convenient. I got my mother-in-law an Arkfeld because she also has property, and
yeah.
it's one of those things that she can just drop it on a charger as soon as she gets back in, and it's ready to go whenever she needs it. So I mean, say what you want about it, it's fantastic. I was thinking like, do you try and avoid on cell battery charging? Do you try and avoid something where the battery has to be specifically removed if
Well, the thing is, what I like about the batteries that can be removed, because you can see the voltage. Right now, I'm testing this beautiful shiny
oh
Wooden.
wow, that is glossy.
That is glossy. It's copper. The problem is if you run it really low, you don't know the battery voltage. It could be like way below like 2 volt even. I have no idea because it doesn't show. So that's what that concerns me sometimes. Like because it's built in, you don't know when it cuts off the voltage, and maybe it's damaging every time you run it really low. I have no idea.
Right.
So I understand that for me it's also a little bit a small concern sometimes if I think about it. I usually don't think about it, just use it. But if you think deeply about it, you just don't know what's going on the inside because it's built in.
Right. One of those when a manufacturer says that their cell is good for X number of uses, but that's going to be under optimal conditions,
Yeah.
as opposed to when something the cells could be discharging at different rates and then trying to charge them back up with in the same pack, it could shorten their life drastically.
Yeah, so that's why that's one thing I could be concerned about a little bit instead of like replaceable or removable batteries, because you can really see the voltage and you can charge them up. But that's another thing I worry a little bit more about is multiple batteries. If you have like 8 batteries in a pack, it's tough to keep all 8 batteries just for that flashlight. I don't, because I'm using it for multiple flashlights.
Right.
So to be on the safe side, you should probably keep them together as married couples, so to say.
Right. These are my MFO5 batteries. These are my
Yeah. So yeah, that takes 8 batteries, but I also have quite a few that take 4 batteries, and I don't have so many batteries. I mean, I have quite a few, but not that many that I
right.
can just put them aside. No, those I shouldn't touch because these are for the Ace Beam X70. Blah 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 blah. Yeah,
Right, right. These are already balanced. I can't touch them now.
yeah. No, so that will be the ideal situation, but no, that's not how I go about. No.
Okay. Well, I did have a follow-up question. You mentioned those XR 1.5 volt lithium cells, and I'm curious. I assume they use some sort of smart circuitry to act as a buck transformer in disguise, so to speak, to drop that voltage down. I'm curious though how that would affect flashlights that have like battery indicators. Is it just going to read full all the
Yeah,
time, then boom, it's done?
that's a good question, but hmm, I don't think I have a AA or AAA batteries. Okay, we have 10 more minutes. Okay, 10 more minutes.
Okay.
I just got a screen. For I don't have any AA or AAA battery flashlights that have a voltage indicator, as far as I know. But I'm not from the top of my head. Probably there is one that will show something. But yeah, I don't know. The good thing about the XR, it will just turn off after so many minutes. Just turns off the flashlight. So,
So
but
if they try to if they try to implement this into like other types of cells, that might be something that they have to visit when they come to it, then, as opposed to having to worry about it right now, since it doesn't sound like it's going to be that much of an issue on these smaller batteries.
So, sorry, what do you mean?
Oh, I was saying that that with the not being able to indicate voltage because it's going to read at that steady 1.5 volts. You're saying so it might not be as much of an issue now with these like the AA cells, just because it's not going to, I guess, come into effect. It's not relevant, because you don't really have to worry about indicated battery levels.
No, 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 probably not. The another good what do you call them? Use case for those batteries are clocks, like digital clocks. That's what I'm using them right now because it just stays stable. And many clocks, like digital clocks, they just, they get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer when the batteries run low. So even I don't use them in flashlights, I will just use them in clocks.
Okay.
So that's a good use case. So right now they're not really ready for flashlights, in my opinion, because I've tested with maybe 10 flashlights and some just didn't work. So I wouldn't recommend going after those, buying those, unless it will work. The device or the flashlight use so much they need so much voltage, because some flashlight they need, like I cannot remember the names, but some they just need a higher voltage. So if you have like 4 in series, then you have like 6 volts exactly instead of like 4.8, for example. So
Right.
yeah, not recommended. I for flashlights right now.
I mean, technology is always changing, though. It's going to be one of those things that they're probably going to have to revamp charging circuits and revamp, but how things are, like we're talking about, how things are indicated, as soon as solid state comes into play more in more full effect, and stuff like that. Anyways, so
Yeah, it's interesting to see what's coming up. I mean, all those new technologies are very welcome, in my opinion. Um, it's just not trustworthy at the moment. But I think the same with LED flashlights. They came, I think the first one is probably in 2018. I think the first one was built. That was okay. I think it was a Well-Tool W3 or the ASB in W10, or maybe even a Mac stock. I can't remember. But
there's too many of them. Hard to keep track.
yeah, that is pretty old. Those are one of the oldest. But right now, I think that more companies are using it, and they're getting better as well. And that will also happen with the batteries and that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to new technology, to new batteries. And how about you? So what is your ideal? I mean, don't make it like extreme, like a million lumens with a small battery, but like more realistic. What kind of flashlight do you think will be interesting to have in, let's say, 1 year or 2 years? That's
Well, I think for me, a big thing is, you know how they say during energy conversion, there like nothing's ever just used up. It has to go somewhere. And for LEDs, compared to incandescent, you notice a lot more. You notice a higher runtime. You notice more output because you're able to get, for the energy. It does generate heat, but you're able to get a lot more light with that heat. For me, I think if they're without switching technologies, so to speak, like you were saying, the Kyocera laser technology or anything like that. I think for me, if there was some way to harness more of the energy coming through into light and less of it to heat,
mm,
um, like something again like this brass i5T, if you're able to bump this up to 2,000 lumens without having,
mm.
I think I heard it once, without having it be an illuminated hand warmer. Um, I think that would be ideal, and maybe other people don't agree with me, but I think that you're able to push. I think you're able to push, uh, technologically. I think you're able to push a lot more out of something. The more research that goes into it, and I know LEDs have already come a long way as
Mm.
far as tint, as far as color rendering, just the output, what is it, lumens per milliwatt, I think, is something. I don't remember exactly what it is, but if there were more of a push to, I don't want to say heat dissipation because that means it's still creating the heat,
Hmm.
but converting more of that energy into light output. I think that should be on the forefront of flashlight manufacturers, or at least LED manufacturers.
Yeah, that's what I kind of like as well about like the Nichia, the LG, I think, whatever, Osram. They're always building new types of LEDs, and the funny thing is, it's goes slow. By I mean, it's kind of fast if you think about like 20 years, but still 20 years is. I mean, uh, Musk or Elon Musk, he's flying to the moon like in 10 years, so to say. They could invent something like next level a little bit quicker, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. I think it just has to play. I without getting political, I think it comes down to, um, I think it comes down to a lot of people want to try and save the planet, and they are putting efforts
That is
into.
political. That is political.
Well, yeah, I'm
That
trying
is
to
true.
keep it neutral. Okay, I'm trying. But a lot of technologies are out there now, and they have a specific goal in mind. So I think as far as what one flashlight nerd, or an illumination connoisseur, whatever you want to call them, what one person might deem as necessary, or what one person might deem as relevant now on the grand scheme of things, might not be in the picture at all. And I totally get that. But as far as, yes, as far as progressing flashlight technology, there are a lot of other technologies in the works, like you were saying. But I think kind of perfecting, or honing the wheel, so to speak, on LED technologies, I think there's still some room there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there should be. I just if you really think about it, it's goes a little bit slow. Like I mean, like neutral white was kind of introduced about 10 years ago, and we still didn't really. Yeah, exactly. And so it goes slow, and I'm looking forward to new technology, new LEDs, and all that kind of good stuff. We only have 1 minute left with our Zoom call. So just for finishing this off, what okay, so maybe you have something to mention before we end, or ask, or did you have
Oh
anything else?
man, I feel like you're putting me on the spot now. Let's see. I don't know. I think flashlights are amazing, and people who aren't into flashlights, you're not cool. No, I'm just kidding. But there's so much that can be done with flashlights. There's such a vast array of things, and I think if anyone puts in even like an hour or so looking on budget light forums or candle power forums or anything like that, that's something that they can find something specific to what they're looking for.
Or 1lumen?
And or 1lumen.com, yes, or 1lumen. But yeah, they would be able to find something that
Yeah,
suits
I
exactly
think
what
there's
they
a
need.
flashlight for everyone, right? There's a flashlight for everyone. I think that's
There
a nice closing statement. There's a flashlight for everyone, so you just need to look and look hard. If you kind of find, look harder, and
right.
you can always find one at 1lumen, I think. And Josh, thanks so much for coming on, and